Joe, a long rematch, another rematch here is Tulane wins the American Conference, and they're going up against Ole Miss in Oxford, who is replacing their head coach with Pete Golding. And I'm sure that's no one absolutely knew that Lane Kiffin wasn't there. That's not been in the news at all. But Ole Miss versus Tulane, part 2. What are your thoughts?
The line on FanDuel, 17.5 in favor of Ole Miss. Blake, look, I'm going to give Tulane some credit here before we tear them down. I thought that the way that they played in the American Conference Championship game, I thought that it was really respectable. I thought that they played their ass off. I thought that they looked relentless. They were going all out on every single play. They forced big turnovers. They had big hits. They put Drew Mestamaker in hell because they have a pretty solid front seven. They have an ability to completely disrupt and get after opposing quarterbacks. They've got 34 team sacks. They also have a really good G5 offensive line where they only have 10 on the year. All right, now we're done being nice. Blake, Ole Miss, I don't know what to expect from Ole Miss just from the sense of what does the offense look like with Charlie Weiss?
Charlie Weiss Jr. is still there. I mean, he called plays during the year, so.
Yeah, how different do things look, though, with no Lane Kiffin involved? How does the identity of this team look after Pete Golding took over? Blake, very simply, forget the X's and O's and the matchups and all that stuff. Sometimes games are emotional. Mm-hmm. After what transpired with the Lane Kiffin departure, this is a fan base and a team that is galvanized. It is motivated. I don't know what their future looks like in the playoff, but I can tell you right now, I think that they see an opponent that they can take all their frustration out on.
Oh, like no doubt.
That bit 17.5 point spread, I think they're going to cover. I think that they're going to dominate them, and I think that they're going to work them, and this game is going to be over at halftime. They are too much for Tulane to handle, as we saw the first time that they played.
Mm-hmm. Tulane has one of the worst secondaries in the country. It's what got them the first time, and why this game was a 35-point blowout. Even though Ole Miss took the pedal off the metal in a massive way in the fourth quarter. They kept running the football. Tulane couldn't stop it. And I know Tulane this year, from a run defense standpoint, they're top 30 in the country in run defense, but you got obliterated in that game up front. Joe, their secondary is 121st in the country in passing yards allowed. They're getting torched. This isn't the team. The number 3 team in the country, Lane Kiffin or no Lane Kiffin, this team can throw the football and will go vertical on you quick, fast, and in a hurry. Charlie Weiss has been I'm sure Lane Kiffin gives a lot of suggestions. I'm not saying that Lane Kiffin clearly has no input on his own offense. However, this might be a bloodbath. Now, Tulane brings in Will Hall. He's going to be their new head coach. Jon Sumrall's over at Florida. How does that dynamic go in and of itself? Because Sumrall's got a foot out the door. Will Hall's already in the building. They promoted him from within. Does Will Hall kind of run things now? Does Sumrall kind of oversee things? I don't know. But you have two, quote-unquote, lame duck head coaching situations. This is Pete Golding's first game. I got to ask you this question. How do we know how Pete Golding manages a game? How do we know? Do we have any clue? Does he tell Charlie Weiss that he wants to play a different style of how we do things offensively? Does he neuter Charlie Weiss and how he does things? I don't think he will, but you don't know that. Regardless of all of that, I think Tulane, listen, they're saying, well, I've been seeing a lot of them because I live next to them. Oh, we're in the playoff before LSU. Buddy, you got blown out when LSU got lost by 5 with a quarterback that had torn abdomen. Like, it's not the same. You're about to get blown out. This secondary is horrendous, and I don't want to hear it anymore. Now, you got 2 weeks. Maybe you can keep this thing close in the first half or first quarter for all I know. But, Joe, this is going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly quickly because this secondary couldn't stop a bloody nose with a whole box of Tampax. They can't stop it. So, you said it was 16.5, right?
17.5. It already moved.
All right. Give me Ole Miss to win and give me Ole Miss to cover. Because you're going to do the same exact thing that you did to them the first time. Joe, they embarrassed them. And by the way, not only is the Ole Miss players going to want to take out frustration, what do you think the fans that have been through in the last month, that they've been calling this the biggest game in Mississippi football history, a playoff game at home? You're going into a nightmare, and you're going to get one. You're going to get one.
This is going to be a good old-fashioned ass whooping. Yeah. Look, good for Tulane win their conference. Good for them for showing up. And if there was one G5 team that I think proved that they would have gotten in, it would have been Tulane. I know that we don't need to relitigate that whole conversation.
I mean, we say that, but Ole Miss didn't beat a team worse, didn't beat another team worse in the SEC that they put an ass whooping on Tulane on.
Yeah. Here's the just biggest problem with all this. I don't know what they do well enough that's going to help them sneak. Like, what is their – this is the issue that I have with both JMU and Tulane. What is either team's X factor? What is Tulane's X factor? They got a good offensive line. They didn't allow any sacks according to
run defense,
box score.
Run defense, JMU second in the country and Tulane's 30th.
But who's that against?
Well, again, the only reason Tulane's 30th is because they played Ole Miss and they got their asses whooped.
I made sure to check in with Ryan Roberts, who does a lot of digging into draft names, and I asked him, does Tulane or JMU have draft prospects, either of them? And he said no. There's a kid on JMU we're going to talk about tomorrow that I think is a very talented player. But outside of that, no. I don't know who steps up to the plate. And I think that as we saw the first time that they played, it is going to be over pretty quick.
I completely agree. I don't know how to break this one down. I mean, maybe Ole Miss comes out flat because of all the turmoil, but
I don't think they will.
We thought they were going to come out. Hold on. We thought they were going to come out flat against Mississippi State.